So today what we're going to do is we're going to deep dive into AI prototyping. I'm going to give you an understanding of what really AI prototyping is. I mean, I'm sure you've read several places and several versions of it where people are saying that this is absolutely important and you need to learn and all of that. And that's why we are going to be here to do that today, right? We're going to deep dive on this. This is a two-part series. So today I'm going to deliver all the concepts in the next an hour or so. And then tomorrow I'm going to apply those concepts live on Bolt. And you are welcome to sit with me in that session, prototype along with me. We'll try to make it interactive. I'll try to do a step and then do few steps, take your questions, do few steps, take your questions, and all that, so that you learn with me on how prototypes are done. But today is all about learning it, and that is how we're going to get started. And the first thing that we're going to get started is uh, from a PM perspective, right? It's a very quick question to all of you. I'm sure at several places, right, from a PM perspective or from a builder perspective, from a founder perspective, there have been several times when you are stuck waiting for an engineer to actually build the product, right? And just to test an idea, sometimes you require a designer, sometimes you require an engineer. So basically, there have been several situations in which a PM is forced to wait for someone to come in and actually bail them out or actually come build the prototype for them. With AI, that era is over now, right? What is happening now? Lovable, which is an AI prototyping app building tool, recently crossed $120 million in ARR in under a year. Bolt, very similar story, over 100 million ARR again. And the important part is that even the big companies, right? Companies like Anthropic and OpenAI, the Anthropic is, of course, the company behind Claude. Now, their product teams are publicly building prototypes before they even decide to build a roadmap, before they decide to write a PRD, before they do anything else at all, right? What they do is that they build prototypes, they prototype these solutions to all the problems that they're trying to solve. They then use these prototypes to dog food users. And then once they are sure that this is going to work, they actually productize the winners, right? So essentially, every modern company is pivoting towards using AI prototyping as one of the major things that they do, or one of the major requirements that they have from a product manager. Which is why, as a product manager, it is now your job to actually build a great prototype. It's now your job to actually build a solid work. Otherwise, you are going to get stuck, or you're not going to be able to stand out in this world of AI, right? This is the first time the way the products have been built is fundamentally changing, right? Before this, what used to happen was the thought process of building a product was similar, but now this time with AI coming in, with prototyping coming in, the fundamental method of building products or AI products is changing. And today in this bootcamp, I'm going to talk to you about exactly how you can do it, right? So, I mean, of course, before we get excited, we have to understand what AI prototyping is and all of that, right? Now, what happens when PMs try AI prototyping for the first time, right? This could be a PM at a company trying to build it for their organization. It could also be you trying to build a project that you want to show in future. Could be anything. But when PMs first try prototyping, what happens is they open up Bolt or Lovable. They give a generic prompt saying, hey, I want to build a CRM and so on and so forth. And they get something what you can see on a left hand side, right? They get quote unquote AI slop, which is basically it looks impressive, it's clickable, you can add stuff, do something. But the first reaction is that, oh, this is great. But then the moment you actually start using it, the moment actually it looks, when you go look at it, it looks very, very generic, right? It looks like every single CRM under the sun. It looks very, very similar to all of it, right? The styling is very generic. It's very standard chat CN components, React components, and every app that you see that gets built on Lovable or that gets built on Bolt or any of these tools, they look just the same, right? They end up looking exactly the same, which is why you end up becoming at a place where you just have AI slop, right? Which is where all you built is generic CRM that looks the same as everyone else would, right? Absolutely same. So, I mean, what happens is instead, what would happen is, you actually have to do better, right? And that's the goal of what we're going to do today. And that is how we're going to do. Right. What I'm going to do now is I'm just very quickly going to show you a quick prototyping win on Lovable, where I'm going to say, hey, build a CRM prototype for me. I'm just going to give a generic prototype. So while we go on, Lovable is going to do its thing. And then in a while, I'm going to come back to it and show how generic or how simple or how standard the outcome is going to be like, right? But what we want is not that, right? We want something that stands out. What we want is on the right side of your screen, which is a high craft prototype, right? Which is an amazingly visual, great prototype, which basically solves all of these problems, right? Which basically does not seem generic. And that is what you can see on the right side of your screen, right? Which is a high craft prototype or a proper prototype, right? This is what, from a company's perspective, what you want as a PM is you want a prototype that can actually match your product's design system, right? So, for example, if I'm a PM at Airbnb, or if I am a PM at Uber, if I am a PM at Zoho, I want my prototype to look exactly like Zoho does. I want to copy whatever Zoho's design systems are and make my product feel like that, right? I want it to feel different. I want it to feel unique. And of course, the functionality and everything is there, but that is the main thing that we're going to do. So what we're going to learn today is we're going to learn how do you bridge this gap, right? How do you go from, your generic CRM buddy, which Lovable is still building, to something that is absolutely beautiful, to something that is absolutely well knit. And that is what the attempt is by the end of this bootcamp. Basically, what we're trying to do is we are trying to move away from AI slop. We are trying to move away from generic prototypes to great ones, to absolutely beautiful ones. And we'll see how we can do this. Now, let's try and understand, something that will essentially change how you think about the entire product process. Remember in the first slide, I said that AI prototyping is a fundamentally shifting or fundamentally changing way of doing prototyping or way of building products, right? That is what you have to focus on, or that is what you have to think about. And that's what I'm trying to give. So now traditionally at the top of your screen, as you can see, what was the flow, right? The flow was you identify a problem, you prioritize it, you put it on a roadmap, you then design a solution, and then you build it, the dev team builds it, and then it goes to the customers and you ship it, right? That was the original thought process. That was the original plan around the CRM is ready here. So as you can see here, now this is great. On face of it, it looks great. But if you look at it, almost every CRM looks like this, right? Now, if I'm a PM at Zoho, I don't want my prototype to look like this, because it's great in visual, but then it's very generic. I want my Zoho logo to be here. I want the spacing on the left to be exactly like Zoho. I want the colors theme. I want the way this is created to be exactly like Zoho. So that's what we're going to get at, and that's what we're trying to do. Now, coming back to this. So typically the top half of your screen is where the typical problem was. And the problem with this was that by the time you reach this phase, right? By the time you reach the phase that you were designing a solution, you had already committed to it, which means that the VP of the product or your manager or everyone knows that, hey, this is a feature that is getting built this quarter. So even if the solution was bad, even if the solution was not well made, you still have to build it. You're essentially stuck with it, right? Which is a big difference or a big change in what it is right now. Now, how has it changed now? After prototyping, what has happened is a new flow called product shaping has come up, which is a completely different flow. Now, here what happens is after you have identified the problem, right? And the left, as you can see on your screen, what you do is you then build prototypes for all the problems that you have identified. So you don't prioritize problems on your own anymore. You actually take 10 problems that you have and you build prototypes. So, for example, if you're a PM at Swiggy, let's say, and you identified that, okay, one problem is delivery time, because so scheduling delivery is a problem. Another problem that I found as a PM is, ratings are not reliable. Some random ratings come in. Another problem is some food, I don't have enough information about the nutritional value, the carbs, and all of that of food. So there are three, four problems we identify. Now, initially, what used to happen was the PM was the one who would say that, okay, now let me prioritize among these problems, and then we'll build a solution to one of them. Now, what happens is different. The modern way is to say that, okay, all these problems I've identified. Now let's build prototypes for all of them, right? I'll build a prototype that will allow you to schedule deliveries. I'll build a prototype that will allow you to, look at nutritional value of all the food that you order. I'll build a prototype that will allow you to have, locational or geographic or whatever ratings, right? And then I will take this to my users. I will test with them. And then whatever wins with my users, right? Whatever my users end up saying that, this is great, I will just accept it, right? So fundamentally, it is different. And if you just take a step back to it, right? Apple, which is, one of the world's best products, actually has been doing this for decades, right? What happened was, Johnny Ive, who's now at ChatGPT, etc. Now, when he was building the touch interface and so on and so forth, they used to make internal prototypes. The user used to be Steve Jobs at that time. There was no other user that they did it, but Steve Jobs used to be the person who they tested their prototypes with. And then his fundamental thinking and his fundamental thought process was what led to building the iPhone, was what led to building the iPod, and so on and so forth, right? Now, this process, of course, with Apple used to cost millions because you need to sit in a lab, you need to build the prototype for Steve Jobs to test it, and then you actually have to say something. But now, with products like Bolt, Lovable, Alloy, Reforge Build, etc., it's just one afternoon of work, right? Similarly, like the Swiggy example I gave, right? Now, instead of sitting in a meeting room with a 5 PMs and senior PMs, etc., what happens is you instead now go create the prototype, go to a restaurant or a user, etc., get real feedback from them, and then talk about that feedback to people. So you don't essentially now depend on uh, subjective decision making. You actually depend on users, and some of the world's top products were already built using this philosophy, but they used to have internal testers and they used to have a lot of money to do it. Now that money is eliminated because now it just costs $20 to build it, right? Of course, because it's being given to users, it has to be a great prototype, right? Everything has to work. You cannot create the one that we created here, right? Where nothing is clickable, three dots are not working, add contact is not working. You just have standard random numbers on dashboard. You cannot create this kind of a prototype. You have to create a prototype where every single thing works, right? Only then will you be actually able to test it out, or not. If not every single thing, then at least most of the things, at least 90% of the things, which is why we have to look at it. And that is why we are now going to go deep dive into the AI prototyping ladder. There are 15 skills that we are going to study. And of course, now why this matters. So now let's dive into, the how of it, which is understanding, how you actually do this, or how you actually go about it, right? I what I've done is I've gone through content material and all of the top AI prototyping practitioners, experiences from my own work, and so on. People who are building real products at top companies in India, in the US, etc. And based on that, distill down these ladders of skills. Now, there are three skills, three ladders here, as you can see. This is the AI prototyping mastery ladder. There are 15 total skills. We'll go to each of the skill one by one. I mean, quickly cover them. Of course, not enough to cover in an hour, but we'll cover whatever we can. But at the begin, at the bottom, sorry, is the apprentice level. Now, at this level, you need to learn how to prompt, you need to learn how to edit, and you need to learn how to establish design consistency. Right? Most of us, when we are starting AI prototyping, are here. We can write a prompt, we can refine it on Lovable, we can achieve some semblance of design consistency, we can keep doing that again and again to get consistent, but this is the foundations. right? This is the bare minimum. So your starting point is this, right? From here, you move to the next level, which is the journeyman level. This is where you learn versioning, debugging, diverging, all of the creating multiple variants of the same design, building functionality into the prototype, adding backend, adding front end, adding APIs, and so on and so forth. And at the master level, you actually start doing product shaping, you integrate analytics, you integrate Mixpanel, you start, integrating 5 or 6 different APIs, and you start handing it off to engineers properly. So here, your prototypes are now actually full-fledged products instead of, documents, right? Today, what we're going to cover is the most impactful skills at each level. And hopefully by the end of the session, you have a clear path of moving from wherever you are right now to try to go to the master tier, right? But essentially this is the breakdown that we are going to look at. Now let's look at the skills step by step, right? We'll start with the single highest leverage that you can do as a PM prototyper, and we'll call this the baselining, right? Now, what is the baselining? Basically, when you're starting in at the apprentice level, what is the starting point, right? Most PMs actually don't know what it is, and that's why I'm trying to give you like a real actionable work of what has worked for me and what can work for you as well. So what we're going to do is when you start prototyping a new feature from scratch, the AI tool that you're using, Lovable, Bolt, whatever, they actually have no idea what your product looks like. So it gives you a generic output, right? AI slop. The fix is very simple. Take a screenshot of your product, actual live product. You can also take a video recording of the product, drop it into the AI tool, and just say recreate this screenshot. Now, you have to spend an hour refining that again and again, right? Match exact hex colors. You use an eyedropper. There are several Chrome extensions that are available that you can use to get the exact color. You center the headers, round the buttons, spacing, all of that, right? Then you save this as a reusable template, right? So you actually can be able to save it on different tools. So Lovable also allows you to save it. In Bolt, you can just name it as product baseline. So this basically is the baseline. There is another product called Magic Patterns, which is another AI prototyping tool. There also, you can just use this template. You can save this template. And now any project that you build on top of this template will automatically have your base ready, right? Now, that is, and this is the beautiful part, because once you do it once, anyone in your team does it or you do it, spend like an hour on perfecting it. Now, every single feature built here, right? Every single feature, built on top of it follows the same design pattern and the same consistency that you're going to have, right? Let's assume that you're a PM at PhonePe. Now you screenshot the payments home screen, you recreate it, refine the colors, layout to make it exactly similar to the actual one, and then you save it, right? And then when you prototype a feature on top of it, let's say UPI Lite or AutoPay or whatever, everything starts from this base, right? And whatever your stakeholders see is they see a prototype that is exactly looking like PhonePe and not, a generic output, right? So this is how you set a baseline. And every new prototyping that you do actually starts from this baseline, right? And this is what is the fundamental step towards changing from where you are to where you can become consistent. I'll give you a very simple example of this, right? We'll just go back to Lovable and I'll just search Airbnb because I created a project around it. So this is something that I did with Airbnb, right? Very similar stuff on what we did. So here, of course, what we did was I'll just change the design again. I think, where's the design? Where's the design? Okay, maybe I'll just open the first one. So basically what happened was here, what we did was we went ahead and, okay, created a screenshot of the Airbnb website, right? And we asked to create a wireframe on top of it, right? Now, if I were to give a prompt and say, can you generate an Airbnb replica? It would have a tough time doing it. But here, I will just open the Airbnb website as well for you, airbnb.com. As you can see, of course, the colors are different, but you see most of the things are already in place, right? All the three tabs, the date, the places to show this, all of them are in place already, which means that there is a bit of work, of course, to do on top of it. But then we're already at a place where there is something that we have. Now, if I spend an hour refining it and then save it as, a template, I'm going to become, I can just start this project or move to a particular folder and then use that folder forever, right? So what I can do essentially is I can create a simple baseline using this, and that baseline becomes everything. Right now, I don't have to worry about changing things again and again. I basically have to go from just a base and starting from there, right? You can use sometimes your Figma files, but the easiest is copy paste screenshot. uh, AI tools are extremely good at learning and at going through images and rendering screenshots. That's going to give you the best outcome, right? Now, of course, let's talk about some more skills on top of it, right? The skill number two, what is that? Prompting, right? So the first skill that we saw, sorry, the first skill that we saw was setting the baseline. The second skill is prompting, right? Which is basically going about the next step of saying that, okay, so I did show the screen of Airbnb in a bit. I don't know if this is not visible, but this was what is Airbnb. And then this is how the prototype came out. Now I have to, of course, spend an hour to refine each and everything and make the colors different. But otherwise, we were already in a place, where we are already, pretty close because all the elements are there. So I hope you're able to see it. Right. So that was the first skill. Second thing was second number of skill is prompting. Right now, let's talk about that. Of course, prompting is of course important. We all know that, and I'm going to talk about something that you may feel counterintuitive. Right. The biggest thing that you have to understand is you don't need any fancy prompt engineering for prototyping, right? I'm sure you must have learned prompting, think like a senior front end developer and so on and so forth. All the AI prototyping tools are already built with prompts that help the AI tool do this, which is why you don't need to worry like that. You don't need to add the typical prompts. The thing that you need to do is you need to be very clear about the usage, right? So don't dump like a 500-word essay or every detail and so on and so forth. And of course, don't be vague as well, which is don't force, some implementation choices and all of that. The best way to do it is to, write a clear short description. Let AI choose how to do it. Be specific about the visual details. Give exact hex codes, right? Don't say make it blue, make it red. Give exact codes that you want AI to use. And of course, always attach a screenshot for reference. This is the best way to do AI prototyping. My go-to is always I have ChatGPT opened or Claude opened. I always, take a screenshot of whatever I want to fix, whatever I want to do. I put it on Lovable. I want whatever context I need to give to Claude so that it can give me back a prompt. And then I just copy paste the prompt from there. I was hearing a podcast from the co-founder of Wix, right? And he was talking about AI prototyping, and he's built this tool called Dazzle, which is a great tool for AI prototyping again. And what he said was that from an AI perspective, you have to keep the mental model that AI, anything that can be misinterpreted by AI, will always be misinterpreted, right? Anything that you feel is generic, anything that you feel is maybe there are maybe two meanings of it, will always end up being the bad meaning for AI, right? It's like talking to a genie. 95% of the time it does what you want, but 5% of the time you can say something incorrect and it can cost you hours, right? And that is why you have to understand this. So that is why best way to do it is don't prompt directly on Lovable. Always prompt on Claude or ChatGPT, and then refine that prompt, create a final version of that prompt, and use that prompt to solve whatever you're trying to solve, right? That is the best way to essentially do this, where you got to say in a very simple way that I actually am going to do this, I'm building this, can you write a prompt for me to paste on Lovable? Very, very simple. right? To give you an example for cred, a bad prompt would probably be build a rewards page. A good prompt would be build a rewards redemption screen, a screenshot attached of the kind of screen that you want or kind of color coding and everything that you want from cred. Talk about showing the available coins as a large number, show all the reward categories, add a featured hero banner, match the cred's dark theme based on screenshot with this hex code, and so on, right? The best way to prompt is to not make it about prompt engineering. The best way to prompt is to just use Claude or use ChatGPT as your co-pilot. Right. Of course, just to go a little deeper on the prompting, here is how to prompt, right? There are essentially two modes. On the left side of the matrix, you can see explore mode. So this is the time when you're still figuring out what the feature should look like. So here you're deliberately a little vague. You say things like, hey, I want to add an AI chat feature to my app. Can you explore different entry points? So here what you're telling the AI is, give me options, right? I don't know the answer yet. The right side is the specify mode, which is where, you've picked the direction and now you're just asking, whatever AI tool you're trying to build to essentially give you this value or essentially give you this outcome, right? So that is exactly what prototyping like this means. So you have to decide where you are. You have to decide whether you are in an exploration phase or whether you are in a specify phase, right? I've given some examples as well, in terms of, in the specify phase, what happens, in the refinement phase, what happens, and of course, what happens for a simple feature, what happens for a complex feature, right? So that is how basically you have to do. Now, the insight here, or what I have seen the most of the times, is that most PMs jump to the specify mode directly, right? They already think that they have the solution in their mind and they just want the AI to execute it, which is okay. But the problem is that you're not leveraging AI really well, because if you are forcing yourself to take all decisions, there is no magic that you're leaving to happen. The explore phase is where, prototyping tools are really, really strong, because AI can show you options that you hadn't even considered, right? One more tip, try and sometimes batch your edits. Similarly, for example, changing the color, changing the way the sidebar looks, changing the way the top bar looks, and all of that. Those are all things that you can change or you can improve. So that is something that you can, of course, do as well as when it comes to prompting. So, always look at color changes and all of that so that you save some credits, right? So that is how you can look at it. And, a layout restructure, some API integration, all of that, of course, you cannot batch, but color changes, layout changes, all of that, you can do it from there, right? So very important slide here, all the four buckets for you to understand each of them and then take one by one from there. Right. Now let's look at skill three, which is diverging. Now, this is a more technical term. We'll talk about that. We've again covered two skills so far. We've covered skill number one in prompting, which is the baseline. We've covered skill number two, which is prompting. Now we're doing skill number three, which is diverging. Right. Now, this is one of the most underrated skill in AI prototyping because it's actually hardly talked about. No one really talks about diverging at all while AI prototyping. But the core idea is that whenever you prototype a feature, you don't build one version, you build four versions, right? So you basically force the AI prototyping tool to actually build four versions. And there is a great hack that you could do. And of course, your company might be supportive for this, needs to be supportive for this, which is use multiple tools, right? So what happens is you run the same prompt on Bolt, you run the same prompt on Lovable, you run the same prompt on Magic Patterns, Reforge Build, etc., and you get four completely different variants. You can, of course, use different thought processes, right? Go ahead and try to create a card layout, try to create a feed layout, sidebar panel, all of that. Now, basically, what it means is that when you're doing AI prototyping, if you are force fitting AI into a bucket and saying that, okay, this is what I want, you will never harness the power of the different versions that AI can think of, which is why you have to forcefully ask the AI tool to generate four different variants. And what it does, it simply generates four variants on different URLs, right? Very simple. Right now, imagine for people who use Zomato or Swiggy, right? Imagine prototyping a feature called trending near you, right? Let's assume that. So imagine prototyping a feature called trending near you. Now you run the same prompt on three tools, right? You get a map based view, you get a list with social proof badges, and you get like a swipeable carousel, and you get a grid, right? So you pick the best elements from each, you combine them, and that becomes, your high craft prototyping, right? So you basically start, you show the magic patterns, generating four variants and all of that using the inspiration command. And then finally you show bolt or, all of that with the same prompt. You see all of the four versions of the prototype from there. So a great underrated tool is Diverging. Of course, it requires you to have access to these tools. You may not have access to these tools and all of that, which is where, but even if you don't have access to these tools, you can actually still continue with whatever you have. You can still continue with whatever it is and just let it rest. Now, of course, one quick exercise for you. Think of a feature that you are building right now, and think about what can you prompt about it, right? You of course take a bit of time around typing it. Maybe once you're done, you can drop in the chat, or you can drop it on WhatsApp, etc. But think about one feature on your roadmap, and in 30 seconds try and write a quick exploratory prompt for it, right? Very simple. Try and write an exploratory prompt for any quick feature that you're trying to do. Yeah, just go ahead, just drop anything you chat. Don't take too much time, just 30 seconds to write one prompt for an exploratory feature. Okay, you only have 30 seconds. And remember, prompting is not really a complicated, prompting in prototyping is not really a complicated way to do it. You just think, okay, this is a feature. This is what, and if, of course, not your feature, you can look at what you use, Zomato, WhatsApp, whatever, and use that as well. While you think, we'll move on to the next one. And of course, if anyone wants to drop, okay, Romit's done this. Build a backtest engine which is similar to every aspect with the prod engine. Now, again, Rohit, the problem here is that this is not exploratory, right? Because you have to put AI in a spot and say, hey, can you explore different ways of backtesting engines that are correlated with every aspect of the product engine, right? Okay, Amit is saying build a knowledge hub for all devices. It specifies by sold by XYZ company. Again, don't say build, right? The thought process is you're forcing the AI prototyping tool to explore different ways in which it can do it, right? So that is the difference in what happens, right? And Lipsa is saying that on WhatsApp, I want to build a feature from voice note to transcript. That's a great idea, actually. Because every time you can't hear voice notes, but you can convert it to transcript, right? Great idea. So you have to ask Lovable or Bolt, etc., to build ways in which you do it. What you're doing right now is you're telling that, hey, I want the transcript beneath the voice note. But what if the transcript can come as a message, right? So there are multiple ways in which can happen. So then explore prompt actually forces the AI to do this. And so that's how you basically become more exploratory with this, right? I hope you understood what I'm trying to test here, which is basically trying to put AI into a place where you're asking it to create multiple versions. You're asking it to say that, hey, I want you to explore multiple options, and so on and so forth, right? So that is what you do when you're trying to look at it. Right. Of course, now we are going to move to the fourth skill, which is visual editing, right? Which is editing. Now, of course, once you've built the first version, in a prototype, you're actually going to build way more time editing, because in the first version is going to come out very quickly. But as you saw the first version we did on Lovable, the next version, the editing is going to take most of your time, right? And that's why editing speed is very important, right? Now, there are three kinds of editings that most AI prototyping tools have. There is visual editing. So I'll just open Lovable again for you and show you this. So there is visual editing here. What visual editing does is it allows you to select any particular element and makes a visual edit on that. So this is direct manipulation of the tool. You basically sometimes drag and drop, you use the eyedropper to put the color, you edit the prompt, wait 20-30 seconds for the AI, and it's very quick, right? So that is what happens. So I'll just go back and wait for it to load. But essentially, this is very, very simple or very, very easy to kind of do, right? So that is what this is. I'm just going to open this version as well here. Yeah, this is actually the first one that I had created. This is very similar to Airbnb if you look at it. I just changed the design for some other work, but this is very, very similar to Airbnb. But visual edits is basically where I select, where I just click on this and then select one of the elements here. Let it just load again properly and then we'll do it. But visual edits is direct edits, right? Now, the rule of thumb here is that small changes, right? Colors, spacing, positioning, all of that can happen via visual edits itself. You don't have to change that. You can do very quickly, right? For feature additions, structural, we'll just wait for it to load. Until that time, just go back to our slides. For feature additions, structural changes, new interactions, etc., you have to use prompts. That's the best way to do it. For debugging, writing APIs, changing all of that, that is when you have to dip into code, right? You can tell AI to do it via prompt as well, but visual editing is when you have to do quick changes. Prompt editing is when you describe what you want, and code editing is when you change all of that, right? So the insight basically here is that whenever you require quick changes, you do visual editing. Visual editing takes lesser credits as well, which is why it's important for you to know that as a skill as well. Otherwise, you're going to burn a lot of credits. So every time you don't want prompt, right? You actually need visual editing as well. We'll just go back and see if it has loaded. It hasn't, to be honest. Just load it again on Lovable. But essentially, you need to be aware of what visual editing is. You need to be aware of what code editing is and all of this for you to be able to actually make some changes. Okay, now it's loaded. So visual edits, you just select this. Let's say I want to say this, and here you say change the back. Okay, why am I typing? Change the background color from red to blue and use a very light blue. I, of course, don't have a hex code right now. Otherwise, I would have used the hex code as well, but right now I don't have it. But this is your visual edit, right? So basically what I have done is I have just selected an element and changed it. What is a feature edit? Feature edit is very simple. You just add a prompt here, right? We'll just wait for this to come and we'll move on in the meanwhile, right? So that is how you need to look at it. So if you need to change small things, right? Change a button radius, add some shadow, change the color, like I said, you do a visual edit. Otherwise, you do a prompt edit. If you are comfortable with code, you can edit code as well. Although for most PMs, I recommend not to do it. I just recommend use the prompt and do it from there itself, right? So that is the fourth skill. Now, the fifth skill is how do you make a mockup functional, right? And this is where it gets really exciting, right? How do you build a functional prototype? Because with Figma, you get static mockups, right? They're beautiful, pixel perfect, but they don't do anything, right? You click a button, you open another screen. You click a button, you open another screen. And that is why it cannot really change the game in terms of testing. But with AI prototyping tools, you can build prototypes that actually work, right? You can call real APIs, they can call and process real data, they can give you real responses, and so on and so forth, right? For example, what I was doing in my free time these days, considering the IPL is around the corner, is trying to build a prototype for fantasy, right? I'm sure you guys follow IPL, or if you don't, it's just a prototype for me to spend my time to try and create a way by which you could create your teams and all of that, since Dream 11 is not there anymore and all of that. So now here again, what I'm trying to do is I am not restricting myself to say that, hey, I can only do, some visual stuff and all of that. I'm actually changing the entire thing. If you see what I've done here is that I've, and these are not like this has taken me hours and hours. This is actually like 2 or 3 hours of work because I've been able to get really better at prototyping. But if you see, I can actually, have what I've done is I've actually loaded the entire set of players. I have loaded an API that actually gives me all the players. I have loaded an API that actually ensures that every single player has their image. I've loaded the entire fixtures for the upcoming IPL. Now, why are we doing this? We are trying to do this because we want the prototype to be absolutely flawless, right? We don't want it to be, some random players coming here and we just doing it. Now, the next step for me is to wire an API, which is where I want to do what? I want to take, maybe the live scores of the cricket match and put their fantasy scores in this. Right. For those of you who don't know, fantasies is basically where you select a team and you get points, bit like Dream 11. Now that it's banned, uh, just something to do with friends. But this is basically why learning AI prototyping is important, right? Because otherwise, what you would get is you would get a very basic slop, right? If you will get like a very basic, doesn't work much, doesn't do all of that. But if you want to learn or if you want to build it properly, you will have to learn all these skills and use that. So that is basically the difference between this, and that is how basically you learn to complete your prototype from something that's very static and something that becomes as functional as this or as interesting to build and learn as this, right? So that is skill number 5, which is how do you convert your basic prototypes to like proper functional prototypes, right? And that is why, again, I showed you the fantasy one. Right now, imagine like what I did was a prototype right now, but if my mock-up had probably shown a player that has retired, or it might have shown, let's say, I don't know, Virat Kohli as a bowler, immediately the user does not get any confidence in it, right? Immediately it doesn't feel right. If for example some of the buttons in that prototype don't work, then everyone just loses confidence in that, and then your own credibility as an AI PM or AI prototyper goes down, right? Which is why you can do this. It's very simple. You just keep using Lovable to do this. It's not like it's going to take a lot of credits. What you saw has taken me, what I think, 50 or 45 or 50 credits to build in total, which is 9 days of 5 free credits, to be honest. Just that it's done really well, right? So the fifth skill is how you spend time and actually integrate data, integrate API calls, integrate all of these from there. The best way to do it is whenever you prototype something, you don't prototype the front end, you actually create a backend as well, right? So here, for example, for this fantasy app prototype, what I have is that there is a backend as well here. Now, what is the backend? This backend allows me to integrate data, right? This backend is where I can import a CSV and put all the players in a second, right? All the like 250 players in the database. This is the backend where I can actually import all the games that are coming up in the IPL just with a click of a button, right? So the best way to build AI prototypes is not to just build a front end. Always build an admin as well, because otherwise what will happen is every time you want some front end change or some API integration, you will actually have to go and prompt Lovable to do it. But for example, if this was not there and I wanted to add another game, I will actually have to go and prototype here. So the best way to make a particular prototype functional is when you take when you build an admin side of it as well, no matter what you're doing. For example, let's say you're prototyping urban company. Don't just make the front end, make an admin that allows you to add services, that allows you to add images, that allows you to remove images, that allows you to add a professional, because that is when you can control the backend as well. Lovable now has Lovable Cloud integrated. I'll just show that as well. And tomorrow we're going to go deeper into this and all of that as well. So that's also there. But Lovable has something called as Lovable Cloud integrated into this. So this basically allows you to store data. So this is, of course, all the data, all the tables, so all the players, the games, how many people have signed up, the people in squad, and all of that is visible here, right? So always prototype with the front end and the back end, and just using Lovable to give those prompts is always enough. Tell Lovable that I don't only want the front end, because by default all AI prototyping tools will just make the front end, they will never make the back end. You will have to give it a prompt to say that, hey, I want a backend admin with so and so login, and only I should be able to access it, and these are the features that I should be able to control. That is when your static mockup becomes a full blown prototype, right? So that is why that is how you can build it. And of course, like I said, to build this entire thing of what you see has taken me around 45 credits to be exact. So that's around 9 days of free credits, or $20 gives you 100 credits, which is a month. And my recommendation is, especially when you're learning, start with some free credits, reach to a place where you're consistently spending 10, 15 days to do it, using like 50, 75 credits to do it. And then, if you feel that you are at a stage where you're good, take a month's plan and build that entire prototype. Most of you, for example, in your companies, you would always have that. Right. Now to the last part of what we're going to discuss in the final 10 to 15 minutes today is the engineering handoff. Right now you've learned all the skills, the 5 skills that we talked about. Now it's time to actually give these functional prototypes to engineers, right? So that engineers can actually convert this into production, right? So 4 ways to do this, of course. One is to deploy and share, right? Where you deploy it on a URL and that becomes something that you share with your engineers. The engineers, you basically go and send it to 50 to 100 users, let them play around with it and get feedback. Second is you embed surveys. So in the prototype itself, you actually go put a pop-up saying, rate us, rate how many stars, right? And so on and so forth. And for example, when users close something, you can just add it there, right? So very simple, single prompt, right? Third way to do is to add analytics. So this is where you can integrate PostHog. PostHog is free. It's free for prototypes. It can be integrated on Lovable. And now the DAU, the button clicks, retention, custom event, and all the metrics that are required as well. Fourth is you can actually have session replays. So PostHog also requires logs in session replays. I'm just going to type in the name as well on chat so you can use it. So just tell Lovable, hey, I want to integrate PostHog. It is going to tell you what all what all it needs to integrate PostHog, and that's it. Right? Integrating PostHog is actually really important, because what happens is you can then see your prototype and you can see where people are clicking like this. You can see replays. You can actually embed surveys on the prototype. So you start getting validation of your surveys before you actually go ahead and hand it off. Now, based on this, of course, there is a matrix as well, when to go high fidelity and when to, just go low fidelity. So high fidelity, of course, matters when your prototype is going in front of external users, right? When people are forming an opinion about your product. So that is why you have to build really high fidelity prototypes in front of them. And sometimes, of course, you want to, of course, show internal users, your salespeople or support people. That is when wireframes are fine, right? Don't over invest, just 5 7 prompts and you should be good, right? Very simple logical thing. There is a concept that I read about called the Frankenstein prototype, which is where you actually have a very beautiful high fidelity base, but then you just add some features on top of it, and it that is looks like a wireframe, and this looks the worst. I'm sure you've seen this a lot of times, where the entire product looks great, but that one feature that you've added is actually very low fidelity and doesn't look part of it. So don't mix and match. Either go full high fidelity or go full low fidelity based on the audience, right? Don't mix and match ever. Finally, the biggest part of what we have today is what the PRD is now. Now I'm sure you must already know PRD is called the product requirements document, and with this AI prototyping coming in, that has fundamentally changed. Of course, you still need a PRD, but the role has changed. The prototype now covers the visual design. On the right side, as you can see, it covers the interaction patterns, it covers the user flows, stakeholder alignment, shows people what the feature is going to look and feel like. Your PRD, on the other hand, covers the stuff a prototype cannot cover, right? Product strategy, hypothesis, success metrics, edge cases, competitive positioning, why you're building this, all of that, right? And of course, in the middle is where your feature requirements, user scenarios, and all of them, they get covered by both the PRD and the prototype. Because of this, amalgamation, because of both of these coming together, the cycle of questions is reduced specifically. Because someone reads your PRD, plays with your prototype, they should have zero questions about what they have to build. If they have still questions, then something is missing from either the PRD or the prototype. And what all is needed in the PRD and the prototype now in this modern post AI prototyping era, you can see this on the screen, right? Another great idea is that actually you can put the PRD as a web page inside your prototype. So have the prototype and have a little link at the bottom saying read PRD. The developer clicks on it and the PRD opens up on the same website. So you just share one link and that link has everything, right? So that is how basically you hand off. You first, of course, validate, then decide, whether you have, first, of course, decide high fidelity, low fidelity, then validate, and then hand over to your engineering as a combination of the PRD and the prototype, right? This is basically, the handoff that really works and so on, right? Of course, like I said, the best way to hand off is to publish the URL so the engineer can use the live prototype as a reference. They can also sometimes download the code. The prototypes produce standard React code. So that is nothing proprietary. The engineer can just download it, and sometimes they or give you the opportunity to sync the code with the GitHub as well. So the engineer can just pull it there. Step three is basically the agent can actually put your prototype code next to their production code base and then open a cursor or a Claude code or something like that and say that, hey, copy the sentiment analysis feature from this prototype to the main project, follow our coding standards, ensure you're doing a double QA, and so on. And then the cursor or Claude or whatever agent that they're using actually does a great job at it. I think 95% of the time, this just works. And finally, the engineer actually wires everything up, connects real APIs, real backend database of your customers, everything, handles the edge cases and all of that, right? But of course, the prototype is not production level code. It's still a reference implementation. But as you can imagine, the amount of work that a PM used to do in the development phase earlier versus the amount of impact the PM has now has actually skyrocketed. The PM is now an equal stakeholder in the development of the product compared to earlier, where the development was done by the engineer and the PM was following up and asking what's going on. Because now the PM has the ability to actually give the developer a piece of code and say, I've written the code for you, or my AI tool has written the code for you. All you have to do is just ask Claude Code to compare the two code bases, write the right code based on the React that is there, plug it in, bug fix, and that's it, right? Your job is not to build from scratch. Your job is much, much more simpler now. So there are three kinds of tools that we're going to talk about today. What are these three kinds of tools? The first are AI app builders, right? Now, these are usually general purpose tools. They can build full blown applications, your tools like Bolt, V0, Replit, Lovable, Base 44, Firebase Studio, all of these. They're not built specifically for PMs, but as a byproduct of whatever they do, they are great for prototyping as well, right? So they are basically AI app builders. They build full blown AI apps, but as a byproduct of whatever they can do, they become great at prototyping as well. The second, and this is the category that you can use really well. We'll try out magic patterns and reforge build today. But this is a category which is specifically built for AI prototyping tools, right? These are purposefully built for product teams, for product managers. Products like magic patterns, reforge build, Figma Make, Dazzle, Alloy, all of these kind of products, they have features like diverging that we talked about yesterday built in. They have template management, collaboration, and all of those kind of things. So they are basically built towards prototyping. So of course, you would see a lot of features that we learned in this bootcamp available in these AI prototyping tools. However, the outcome may or may not be as good or may not be as great, because especially with the backend part, right, the AI app builders can do a better job. The third are AI coding tools, right? These are, basically Cursor, Claude Code, Codex, all of those kind of products, typically used by engineers, right? Not used by product managers as such, but they are basically your upgrade pick whenever you are, whenever you feel that, okay, I'm really well versed with the engineering stack, with the coding stack. This is what you do there, right? So when your prototype gets really complex, sometimes, the tools that are available are not enough to handle the complexity. You dive into them, but you would rarely look at it, right? But my advice is, of course, don't overthink. Either look at AI app builders or look at AI prototyping tools. In the workshop today that we'll do, we'll try out both, but that's the best way to go do about it, right? And also, there isn't like a there isn't too much of a difference amongst these, right? So what Magic Patterns can do, Reforge Build can also do, Figma Make can also do, Alloy can also do. It's just a matter of a personal choice. It's just a matter of you deciding which one suits you the best and use that, right? So if you, for example, if your company has Figma licenses, then just stick with Figma Make. If your company has Google Workspace, then go to Firebase Studio. If your company has Microsoft, then GitHub Spark is something that you could use, right? If there is nothing, then of course the free tier of Bolt and Magic Pattern is actually pretty good, pretty generous, that you could use as well, right? So be practical about it. Don't hunt for the best tool. The tools are actually all pretty solid in their own right. It's just a matter of you figuring out and you getting your hands dirty. However, I do want you to know the rankings, right? I do want you to know where and how you need to look at this. And first, we'll talk about the S tier, right? And the best prototyping tool from there, because it requires end-to-end product building. And in my opinion, Replit is right there, right? Now, Replit does something that no other tool can do really well, right? When you start building something, Replit is very good at actually figuring out what you're building first and then plans after, before it actually even starts building the prototype, right? It's got like a multi-agent capability where, there is one agent that is fixing bugs, there is another agent that is looking at the docs, there is another agent that's talking the front end, there is one more that's doing the back end. So it has got a great capability of, doing really well end to end, especially when it comes to prototyping, and that is why it's one of the best there. But however, having said that, it's not like you always need the best, right? Because being the best tool also comes with the best, with the steepest learning curve, right? You have to spend a lot of time learning, which is why the most commonly used is the second tier, which is Bolt, V0, and Base 44. Right now, these are almost neck and neck. Even Lovable, for example, almost is in this category itself. Bolt is the fastest for sure, right? It's actually the fastest in terms of getting you output and all of that. So Bolt does the job the fastest, and it's best at, doing front end and back end both. V0 is great with stability. It almost never crashes. There are very less bugs that comes in, and even Base 44 is actually pretty good when it come to it. Lovable is also, very close to this, but Bolt versus V0 is, a very genuinely split debate, right? There can be expert opinions on both ways. Bolt has, better planning and it's faster. V0 is less error prone and, better from there. You can, again, like I said, pick either one. It's absolutely fine. Then the last is the B tier, which is where Lovable, Magic Pattern, and all of this come. Now, Lovable is best for non-technical PMs, right? It has the most forgiving interface, which is why we're going to study that today. What I mean by forgiving interface is that it has, the most easy to use, the most easy to understand, the most easy to build kind of interface. Magic Patterns is only front end. So if you, like we discussed, if you want to create like an end-to-end prototype, you cannot do Magic Patterns. You can only do front end, but that's also pretty good with the way it does. And then of course there are emerging ones as well. There are two companies called as Dazzle and Alloy. Dazzle is actually built by the co-founder of Wix, which is the website builder that was there. And Alloy is also a great product from there. But as of now, this is like a summary of where the tiers are and where you can look at from the tools perspective, right? This is, and again, doesn't mean that B tier is bad, right? This is basically the amount of stuff that can do, but you need to decide what is best for you, right? For example, for me, because I feel I want to, make mistakes, I want to work, I want to, iterate. Lovable works really well, right? Even Reforge Build works really well. If you are trying to, if you are worried about bugs and you're saying that, okay, I need to, make sure that there are least amount of bugs that are possible, V0 would be pretty good for that, right? So that is how you need to look at it. Of course, there is a small matrix that I have created, which is again for help to help you make this decision. So If your company is already on Figma, just go with Figma Make, Google Workspace, go with that. I've just listed down very simply. If you require a functional backend, then either try Magic Patterns. Magic Patterns is sorry only for front end, so that should be corrected. Either just look at Lovable, Bolt, or Replit. If you are very technical, then look at Cursor or Cloud Code. If you are already on Google, then Firebase Studio really works well. That you don't really have to worry too much. I usually recommend Lovable to start off because it's like I said, the most forgiving. It has the most uh, you know clear cut, very great UI, fairly quick, and does a lot of good work, and is the leading product as well in the market right now. Bolt is also pretty good, almost the same products, and Magic Pattern is actually pretty good from a design sense, right? So that is where we are. Now, of course, before we kind of dive in to actually prototyping, just created a complete AI prototyping workflow, right? And that is important. Step one is explore the problem space. Of course, understand what you want to build, right? This is what a core PM really does, right? You understand, research, talk to users, understand their problem deeply, and so on. Then you define the feature, write a clear hypothesis of what success looks like, why are you building this feature. Then build your baseline, what we discussed yesterday, screenshot the product, recreate and refine, and then save the template. Then diverge, which is explore and run prompts across multiple tools, create 3 to 4 design variants. Finally refine the winner, make all visual edits, prompt iterations, make it as functional as you can. And then step 6 is validate, deploy, send to real users, and so on and so forth. Finally, the last is handoff, which we discussed yesterday in terms of how you're going to hand off. Right? To give you a quick example, let's take the example of Flipkart. Now, let's assume that you want to add voice search on Flipkart. So, step one would be, research, which is, let's say the research shows that, hey, Hindi speaking users struggle to, type text on mobile because it's always in English. So, voice is faster for multilingual users. The hypothesis is that, voice search will increase the attempts to make search by 15%, especially for Hindi speaking users. Now you screenshot Flipkart, you recreate it in Bolt or Reforge Build or whatever product you're using. You create multiple variants. You ask it to create multiple variants, which is floating mic button, inline, voice first, and so on. Then you pick one of them and you start adding more and more things to that. You add, an API that converts speech to text and all of that, and then you deploy and publish it, right? That's how you basically build an entire prototype. We're going to do that now, and we're going to help understand there. And then, of course, once you're done, you basically share the prototype plus the BRD so that it's available for everyone, right? Just a quick summarization of whatever we've learned and whatever we've understood in terms of the mistakes that PMs usually do, which is don't dump everything in one massive prompt, right? AI has context switches just like people. So when we give too much to AI, it fails. And that's why don't create that. Second mistake is don't jump into the solution, right? Try and build versions of it, try and solve the problem properly. Third is just don't build only one version, right? Build multiple versions, diverge, which is what we've talked about several times there. Fourth is don't only show your prototype to stakeholders because stakeholders will like it. Actually, go to your users and get validation from them. And fifth, don't treat your prototype as the production code. It's a great full blown prototype, but it's still not production ready. Right. And just to, summarize the PM evolution that we have seen so far, in 2020, of course, you were just expected to write a PR. Sorry. In 2020, you were just expected to write the PRD. Now you're expected to, build functional prototypes. And in the future, like I said, you will be responsible to push small code changes and all of that as well because you have AI itself. And it's already happening in a lot of companies. PMs are now responsible to ship actual changes and actual things in the products as well. Right. Now we will start with our live exercise of doing all of this. We've got three set up here. There is Lovable right here. There is Magic Patterns, and then there is Reforge Build, uh, and there is Claude, of course, as my co-pilot that we're going to use. But first, we're going to crowdsource some ideas. So in chat, tell me a feature that you feel we should build today. Just try and keep, any website, any feature that you want to do prototyping today, and we'll try and prototype an end to end of that using whatever we've learned today. Okay, vendor financing loan origination system. Interesting, but I would want a product, right? Because we are actually trying to implement. Okay, right. So now let's go to our step-by-step process that we have. What was the first step? Exploring the problem space, right? So now let's make an understanding of what we are trying to do, right? So just a mental model. I'm not, of course, otherwise I would have actually gone and researched a lot more. But here, just to create a mental model, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to, create a way by which users can actually go on Airbnb and have a way by which they can discover more and more destinations, right? They can discover places that they've not been. They can probably enter some of their thought processes, what they want, what they don't want, and that becomes, the core feature. I am thinking that it should probably be somewhere in my home screen, so we're going to use that. But that's my first step, which is that is my problem space, right? I'm trying to understand that this is what people want. So now I've defined this. My first step is not going to be to go to any prototyping tool. My first step is actually going to be going to airbnb.com and taking a screenshot of the Airbnb website, right? So I'll just paste the screenshot here, as you can see, and I'll paste the screenshot here as well. Actually, there is a option on magic patterns, as you can see, which creates recreate a screenshot, because basically they do whatever we have learned, right? They're built for that, like I told you. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to save this screenshot on my computer, and then I'm going to just recreate this screenshot right here. Yeah, there you go. So this is available for me. Reforge build goes one step further, where what it has is it has something. Actually, maybe you cannot see this, but okay, let me just stop share and share my entire desktop so that you can see the toolbar as well. So what Reforge build does here is it actually gives you a Chrome plugin, right? As you can see here, it gives you a Chrome plugin. What it does is it just captures the entire page and then pushes it to Reforge build from there. So what it will do is it will take a screenshot of this entire page and it will push it to Reforge build directly, right? So, like I said, because one of the things that everyone who's building these products know that this is what we have to do, so they always and always start with recreating the screenshot. Right now, Amit is saying that shouldn't we start creating the PRD? Yes, we should. Not the PRD, actually. No, the prototype is not going to be about the PRD. That's what we discussed yesterday. Now, the fundamental is very different. Earlier, you found problems and you prioritized it. Now, you found problems, you looked at what users want a little bit, and then you started building the prototype, right? So, I'll just move it here again and just close this. So, Reforge Build is actually building this. Magic Pattern is also building it. Now, what I will do to Claude is I will go to Claude and actually just give it a prompt. So I'm trying to add a feature to discover destinations on Airbnb. I'll give you more information about the feature later. But what I want you to do is to write the first prompt where I have attached a screenshot of what needs to be built. I've attached the screenshot of Airbnb's homepage, and I want these tools to create it. I'm doing it parallelly on Lovable, Magic Patterns, and Reforge Build. So could you give me that prompt to paste there? Right. So what I've done is I've just asked Claude to give me this prompt very, very simply. Now, this is the great part about Reforge Build, right? Why? Because Reforge Build actually has got a Chrome extension, right? Which means that I can just click on a button and now my entire screen, right? Entire whatever I wanted to do is created. Of course, the experiences are not created here. These clicks are not working and these clicks are not working and all of that. That is not still working here. But as you can see, the recreation part that we talked about in the first step of prototyping is magical with Reforge Build. It does an absolutely amazing job to do it. Right now, of course, all of these are just static right now. They're just, just a rendering of things, which is why it's, all just not really working, but still a great starting point, right? Now, Claude has given me a good prompt to start. So I'm just going to paste it here. And so as you can see, it basically used the exact it's a design system. It's got the colors and all of that. And, the screenshot is also attached. Uh, just, I'm just going to write screenshot attached here just for this to know. And I'm just going to do that here as well, right? So here we go on this, and here we go on this. Right. So now both of them are building. It's a slightly slower process for both of them, but still okay. So Magic Pattern is just giving me an intro of what it can do. I'll just skip this, and it's starting to build now. Right now, the best part, as you could see already, was this. Okay, people are asking to give the prompt. I'm just pasting it on chat. Okay, I don't think I can paste it on chat because it's too long. I hope you're able to see this. But essentially, what you do is you do this on GPT, right? We've just sent the prompt here on chat. You can just do this on GPT or Claude. I've just told the what we are trying to do, right? Normal English. Like I told yesterday, for this, you don't really need to be, a great, what do I say? You don't need to really be someone who has a lot of prompt engineering built in. You can very easily just have piggyback on Claude or ChatGPT to do this. Right. So this is being built. This is also being built. Both of them are being done. And now what? Now let's in the meantime, what's going on? Because we already have Reforge build that is ready. I'm just going to use the same chat, right? And I'm going to tell this. I'm going to tell Claude about what I want to do, right? Okay. Now let's add the feature. I want the feature. I want the AI prototyping tool to explore multiple options. So your prompt should have that. So I'm just giving this the explore phase right now. The feature essentially is an ability for people to discover new destinations on Airbnb. What happens when a user goes inside is they see recommendations for certain experiences that they have. They see certain great photos, reviews, um, just things that entice them to go there and then book. And of course, indulge them to basically book on Airbnb, etc. So that's the core of the feature. Let's brainstorm and understand how we can make this feature more impactful. Right. So again, I'm in the discover phase right now, which means that I am not actually. I'm purposefully telling Claude that that I don't want to give you the answer. This is what I want roughly, but I want you to explore more and more solutions, right? So I'm just going to do that. Swaminathan, yes, I'm using Whisper Flow to convert my voice to text, which is why it's really faster. So now here is what is going on, right? So now it's not really, this is what it has brainstormed, right? It has given multiple entry points, options, right? It has given, the destination page, personalization and conversion, and then it has given a prompt, right? So now the prompt says, I've already built the Airbnb homepage. Now I want to discover destination, a way for users to do. Now it's already given three distinct directions. Now remember, like I told you yesterday, I am not using the AI tools to actually uh, do the exploration because they're not good at reasoning. Claude or ChatGPT are much better. So there is one version that it has created, which is editorial magazine style, where what happens is it's a scrollable discover section. There is another that it has created, which is mood slash interest based, and then there is another which is social proof and community driven. So now, when I was thinking of this feature, I hadn't thought about it in so much depth. So that's how you make the best of it. And then you go from there. So this is a good prompt that is there. If you want to refine it further, you can. But for this session, we're just going to stick with this. So I'm just going to copy this second prompt as well on the chat. And now I'm just going to copy this here and I'm going to send it to this. right? This is still building. Okay, this is built. Now, of course, there are a few hallucinations, as you can see what Lovable has done. Why? Because Lovable is an AI app building tool, right? Lovable is not a tool to recreate prototypes, which is why while things that Lovable has, right, it has, as you can see, it has created multiple images and all of that that were not there earlier. But still, it's not as refined as this, right? This looks an exact replica of this. However, of course, I'm not going to do the prompting to change these. That is something that, of course, you can do on your own. But then now I'm going to just paste it here as well. And okay, this magic pattern's also done a pretty good job at it, as you can see. Again, the logo is something that all both the AI tools have hallucinated on. Why? Because difficult to pick the exact logo and create it, but actually looks pretty solid, right? Compared to the others. Why? Magic patterns and Reforge build are built for prototyping. So they are always built with this in mind that the person coming in, the user coming in to use us actually wants to replicate UI. So that's why they're pretty good at it, right? So I'm just going to send this as well so that this runs here and while this is going here. Now, this is what it wants, right? So see, Reforge build, what it has done is it has created the features. So there are three discovery directions, homepage entry points, the data that it's going to use a real destination and all of that because it has to be like that. And then there is no real booking at this point. There's no live data map and the Airbnb full site is not getting rebuilt, right? So that is what is happening here. So it gives me two options. I can either create a prototype or I can create a wireframe. So I'm going to create a prototype, right? I mean, I'll just repeat what we have done. So now on all three tools, what has happened is the recreation of Airbnb is done, right? The first version of it is done. I can, of course, choose to fine tune it a little bit. I'm not doing it because of paucity of time right now, but the basic recreation is done. This is done here. This is done on Magic Patterns as well. And this is done on Airbnb as well, right? How is it done? Is it done because I gave Claude what I wanted to do? And that is what Claude has done here, right? So now I'm going to wait for all these tools to actually build this up and then, further refine it. Now, a great way to do it is whenever whatever gets built, for example, what I do is you don't have to do too much. I just go to Claude and it give it the screenshot of what I can see on Lovable, and I give it a screenshot of what I can see on Airbnb. And I just tell Claude that the Lovable output was not up to the mark. You can see the two screenshots. Can you compare the two screenshots and ensure that you write a prompt so that Lovable copies exactly the Airbnb UI as much as possible? So what I'm doing right now is while it's getting built, right? While Lovable is doing the next step of whatever it's actually building, what I'm doing is I know that this doesn't look exactly like Airbnb or exactly like my product. So again, I don't have to manually look at it. I just take an image of this, I take an image of Airbnb, and I just tell Claude in the same chat that, hey, this is what got generated. This is how the Airbnb website looks. And that is why I want you to now write a prompt for me so that Lovable can actually fix this completely, right? So you don't really have to worry about uh, fixing the dots and fixing the things one by one. All you can do is just use whatever your copilot is, right? So there are the key difference. So this is what it has said. So Lovable has a text only tab, whereas here we've got images. Search bar, Lovable has four fields, whereas the real Airbnb has three fields. So it has already identified all the major differences that are there, which you would otherwise do, otherwise not do, and so on and so forth. That is why it's given a prompt from there, right? Now you, of course, can choose to do it, can choose to let it be, but that is very, very important from there, right? So now this is what our magic patterns is doing in the meanwhile. Again, don't worry about the multiple tools going on. They're all three doing the same thing. It's just for you to show how divergence works, right? Reforge build is still building the destination data model. uh, Objectively speaking, Reforge build is probably the most correct outcome generated tool right now because it's built, very, very aesthetically. It gets the right things done. It doesn't miss out on a lot of things. So that's why you're pretty good from that perspective. But now what it's doing is it's creating these steps one by one, right? So is what Lovable is doing, and so is what Magic Patterns is doing. In the meanwhile, because I have some time while they're building, I am using that time to tell Claude that, hey, the outcome that was generated by, a couple of these products was not up to the mark. Can you actually compare them and give me a prompt to fix it? I can do the same with these as well, right? So now what this has done is it's built all three directions. There is a sticky direction switcher that they have also built, and that gets built here. So Magic Pattern got done. I think Lovable is almost done. Reforge build is going to take the most time because Reforge build will come out with a much better outcome or much better output as well, right? But let's see what's going on here. So again, what it has done is it has created this right at the top, which is of course pretty bad. I have to refine it and put it properly, but it's created this right at the top. And to be honest, I really don't know how to access them either. So that is something that I have to work with. What Magic Patterns is doing, because it's probably generated the UI but hasn't really generated or hasn't really created a way for me to enter. So just that simple bug fix where I'm going to say that I am I'm unable to access any of the three directions that you've created. I just click on them and then nothing happens. So I'm just bug fixing here. This is going on, and this is done as well. So this now Lovable, much better AI because it uses Opus at the background to change things. So that's why it's much better. But as you can see on Lovable, what happens is it's created it much better, right? So what it has done is it has created the first an editorial magazine. So this is basically like a magazine where you see the first thing, why everyone is going to Pondicherry this monsoon. And when you open it, it actually opens a great blog. So this is why I said that Lovable is great for you, because even though my prompt wasn't great, right? As you could see on Magic Patterns, I did not really give very specific prompts to go inside and do it, which is why Magic Patterns gave me like a very generic bad outcome and there is more iterations required. But Lovable is very forgiving in that sense. It's very good because it uses the some of the best models. So it's already created, why everyone is going to Pondicherry this monsoon, right? And it's created a nice blog article and so on. It's created some experiences as well. Of course, these are not clickable. I can make them clickable by prompts, and it's created like handpicked stays as well. It's created reviews. It's created some know before you go, and then there's a button to explore this, which opens another page, right? So this is why I said that Lovable is the most forgiving in nature, because even with slightly simpler prompts, you can do a lot of things that help you out, right? What it has done is it created like a magazine kind of page for Ladakh, for Bali, for Jaipur. It's created like a horizontal scroll for Kerala, Santorini, all of that. And then, of course, your other comes below this, right? It's created a mood-based discovery as well, where you can click on this. So if I just click on Mountain Escape, it's created a Ladakh experience for me, given me like some details. If I say adventure and outdoors, I think it still shows Ladakh. Culture deep dive, it shows Pondicherry, Jaipur, Indonesia. Foodie trip, it shows Kerala, Jaipur, and all of that. Beach, it shows again few beach destinations and all of that. So it's much more forgiving in the way it gets built and in the way this can become from there, right? Social proof is where the entire talk is about what people are saying, right? So here what happens is the same destinations, but how it's prototyped as Pondicherry has this rating, and this is what Priya is saying about it, right? And then you of course go inside it and you see some reviews and so on and so forth, right? Similarly, just go to social proof again. What is someone saying about Ladakh? So even though we just began like with a very single statement idea early on, right, which is just discover destinations on Airbnb, now completely via AI we actually have three very good directions or three very good feature sets that can actually be pretty value adding towards Airbnb. And if you check out products like Cred and Make My Trip and all of that, they actually have something like this already. But now we've prototyped it. But of course, this is not the end, right? This is just one prompt, right? Let's go back to see what's going on here. It says that it has fixed this, but I don't think, oh yeah, it has fixed it here, right? So uh, in the editorial magazine, this is what it has created. So it's created again by everyone is going to Pondicherry, Udaipur's hidden courtyards. Once you open it, it's so pretty similar now, but of course, the first time it was not working properly, but now it is working properly. But it has given a very nice similar output. But I did require to, tell it once that this is something that is there, right? In the social trending, it's again showing me all the ratings and it's showing me all the reviews that are there, what people are saying, and so on and so forth. And again, mood-based discovery, it's showing me, 12 destinations in beach and chill, 8 destinations in mountains, and so on and so forth. Right? Of course, not as clean as you saw on Lovable, because Lovable is an app builder, so it thinks like building a full functional prototype, whereas this doesn't. But let's see what has happened here. Reforge build has, in the meanwhile, almost completed this, and this is where it is, right? Now, now let's understand what next, right? Now this is available for us. Is it good enough to actually go to a customer and tell them? Of course not yet, right? Why? Because of course these are some destinations that I can see, and you can go to your customers and potentially say that, okay, these are fine and I'm going to show this and people are going to use this. But if you have to build a proper prototype, right, you have to build an admin of it as well, right? Because you don't want to, you want to be able to customize these, you want to be able to attach the different destinations with these. So that is why what you're going to create in this prototype, or what you're going to build in this prototype, is an admin at the backend, right? Like, remember I told you last time as well, always build an admin as well alongside the front end. So that's what I'm going to do, right? So I'm going to just tell Claude that now what I want to do on these tools is build a backend. So you can build an admin page where I can configure each of these three categories. What are the kind of data to show there, and you can pre-fill the data so that it doesn't, so you can pre-fill the data that is already there. So could you create a prompt for me to put it there? So again, what I'm just saying is that I'm just telling Claude the fact, just copy paste this as well. So I'm just telling Claude the fact that, hey, don't stop at just giving me the front end, create a backend for me as well. Why are you creating this backend? Because as a PM, you want to own things, right? As a PM, you don't want the images to be like that. You want to ensure that, okay, I actually don't want just one thing to come in adventures, because if someone clicks on adventures and they see just one, it's going to be bad. I want three or five, four things to come. You don't want some random, reviews to come here and all of that. I want to control what reviews come at every point, right? So that is what you want to do, and that is what we are going to do from this. Now, let's get back to where Reforge build is, and let's understand what Reforge build has done, right? So of what has Reforge build done here, as you can see, what Reforge build has done is at the end, it has created some, you know, this is actually what I meant when I said AI slop yesterday. It has created something that's very generic, right? Why? It has basically built something that, I mean, first of all, the images are bad. Second, it's of course created a better guide, which is it's created some options there. But what it has done is, because you don't have a backend yet, it's left it open. Why is it done it? It's done it purposefully. Why? Because Reforge build expects you to build a backend for this eventually, which is why it does not pre-fill, random images, etc. upfront. What it does is it builds a basic version, and then it expects you to create a backend or create an admin/admin kind of version from there, right? So that is why it just creates, a basic layout, and that is what you now have to build an admin to do. So now we're going to go back to Claude, and Claude has also again created the prompt for us. So we're just going to copy paste this here, and we're going to copy paste this here as well. Okay, this is there are no credits remaining for this. There were credits. Anyway, we'll just continue on Lovable anyway to see prototyping there anyway. So now what I'm doing is instead of depending only on whatever is done or whatever is shown in front of me, I'm going ahead and building a backend. I'm going ahead and building an admin so that this admin becomes the engine behind everything. And if you think about it, this is how products are built, right? There is a server side, there's a backend which feeds the front end. So that's what I'm trying to do. And Claude is now going to, Airbnb Lovable is now going to build that, and that's what I'm going to do. There is another good feature that you can use on Lovable. That's also what I would do. Remember, there was a little prompt that I had written where, I actually wanted to make it extremely similar to how the Airbnb looks. You can actually queue things, right? So what you can do is you can paste this and there is a way to add to queue, as you can see. So what happens is now the next one is actually queued. So after this is finished, Lovable will start doing the next steps automatically on their own. Right? Pretty nifty feature when you're actually building these prototypes and so on. Right now, again, to remind you of what we did last time, there are some visual edits you could do as well. For example, I don't want direction one to come here, right? Um, so I just want change the text to only, okay, remove direction one, direction two, direction three from this. I just want the heading to have editorial magazine, mood discovery, and social proof. Right? So this is a visual edit. Why is this a visual edit? Because this is not an edit that I need a full blown prompt to do. This is just a small thing that I saw that, hey, direction one, direction two looks really bad. Why would I want to do it? I will just go ahead and, instead do this. Okay, so the admin panel is built. Let's try it out. We'll just, okay, it's deployed now, and now it's doing the next one automatically. Yeah, so there is the admin panel that is built now. So you see, this is the admin homepage that is there, right? So this is your homepage configuration that got built automatically, right? Of course, this is the homepage that is there from there, and this is the admin page from it. Now let's just go and see what all is there already in the admin page. So as you can see, there are 7 cards that come on the home page. So what I can do is I can delete a section. The property one is Villa in Canacona. Okay. I'll just go back. Villa in Canacona is here, right? So let me just change it. Hopefully it's wired it properly. Should have, but let me just do that as well so that, so instead of this, I'm just going to say Villa in Canacona 2 and just save it, right? So now I'll just go back and it became Villa in Canacona, right? So now why am I doing this? Now I control this entire page. Now I control my entire prototype. Meanwhile, the redesign is actually working pretty well. As you can see, these has icons now, and this is looking much closer to what I have now. Of course, still not 100% there, but much, much closer to what it is. As you can see, there is a proper Airbnb written there. All of this is working out pretty well. So as I refine this more, it will get better. This bar has become almost exactly identical to what this one was. So it's becoming a lot better. And now we are at a stage where we actually have a lot of these tools with us, right? We can just go to admin, configure the home page and change things. We can similarly go to admin, consider change the discover page and change that, right? So that is basically what it is going on. What is going on here? So all the three, trending in Manali, trending in North Goa, and all the property cards, popular homes in South Goa that you see here, uh, trending in Manali, North Goa, and all of that, they are all now configurable, right? Now the next step is, of course, can you write a prompt to have can you write a prompt by which in the admin I can also configure the 3 directions that we built, so that I can enter what comes inside direction 1, direction 2, direction 3, alongside the home screen. The home screen is working fine now. So I'm just again chatting with Claude, telling them what it is. Now, what Claude is going to do is it's already created an admin for me on this home page. Now it's going to create an admin for me on the backend. I mean, it's going to create the admin for me for the next steps. Now, if you notice, what we also did while we were doing this is we diverged, right? We tried out magic patterns, liked the outcome, but not too much. We said, chuck it. We tried out a couple of times on Reforge build, liked the first outcome, but then did not like how it worked out. We chucked it again. But sometimes what happens is, for example, when we were prototyping something on Urban Company, Reforge build did really well, and that was a great job that it did. But here, replicating Airbnb, Lovable seems to be doing really well, right? So that is how you go about from there, right? So now this is done. So the headings, etc., are also set. So for example, instead editorial mood discovery, so the headings are all gone, and it's become much better. And now I'm just going to copy paste this last prompt to just ensure that the admin has this as well, and this, right? Now, of course, this makes you understand how you're building a full-blown app. There is a last piece of information that is left, which is how do you explore, how do you integrate APIs, right? Because sometimes what happens is you would want to integrate an API to actually configure something, right? You would want to integrate an API to configure these images, or you would want to do that from there. Again, a very, very simple way to do it. First of all, we'll try and figure out where all can we get APIs. So maybe, I don't know, we'll try and integrate an LLM API so that based on the choices, or based on, okay, maybe an LLM will require a lot of time for us to take. So let me think what API can be, or even better, I can just, discuss with Claude, to be honest, right? That is another way we can do it. So what I want to do is I want to integrate some APIs, maybe to showcase the images that are being loaded. So can you help me brainstorm what APIs I can use to integrate them into admin to fetch certain images for a particular location, right? So for example, what I want to do here is when I'm having these images, right? I really don't want to, upload these images or find these images manually every time. I want to have an external API where I can just pull in my data based on something and do that. So that's what we're going to do here. So Claude is going to write this. So again, it's given me multiple options. The first is given me the Unsplash API, which gives me 50 requests per hour, which is plenty, for this admin tool. It's given me Pexels API and all of that. So I'll just say, go ahead and write the prompt for Unsplash API, and also guide me on how to get access to that API. Right? So I'm just so basically what Claude has done is it has given me options of saying that, okay, Unsplash API you could use to get the images, you could use Pexels, you could use Google Places. So it's given me multiple options of what APIs I could use. I just picked Unsplash. So it's giving me the places where I have to go to get these APIs. So I'll just go to unsplash.com/developers. I'm just going to properly log in. Okay, great, worked. So now I just would want to go to developers. So this is there. And then, okay, they want me to register as a developer. Uh, okay, I just want a new application done. So I'm just going to agree to all of this and then accept their terms. Just going to give a name and create the application. An Airbnb clone for testing purposes. Right? Confirm by email. Okay, so just let me confirm my account as well. So what we are doing right now is we are just getting the Unsplash API sorted so that I can show you guys that as well. Yeah, I think it's confirmed now. Yeah, it's done. Perfect. So now what do? I just have to probably go back to Unsplash/developers again. And okay. I've already set up an application. Okay, let me just go back to whatever is happening here. First, okay, it's still getting built, so that is fine. I'm just going to probably move from there. Um, okay, it's you can get an access key and a secret key. Okay, so I should be getting this already. Okay, maybe to API status is where oh, this is just status. Okay, let me just search this. Okay, yeah, here we go. Um, okay, now this is a data tracker. So what I'm just trying to do is I'm just trying to get, okay, for some reason, the last time I created the application, it didn't work. So I'm just going to use that again. Okay, yeah, this is done. Perfect. Yeah, I've got the keys now. So let Lovable finish whatever it was doing. So it's basically going there. It's built the discovery data store. It's extended the admin and built the three directions. So we'll just go back on admin again, right? And now we'll see that these are all done, right? We'll just load in a bit. Okay, Shreya is asking, can you please paste the prompts as well? Sure. I'll just do that. This is the API integration prompt. Although this is, I mean, just be as natural talking to a person from there. So now, as you can see on the admin, what has happened is I now have a way to change the editorial. So if I open this, I can see the image that is being uploaded. I can see the headline and all of that. I can see mood discovery, social proof. So now I can control my entire prototype, right? Now I don't have to depend on that. And just in like 5 or 6 prompts, right? We've spent barely 25 minutes, but we almost have like a working Airbnb prototype. I can, showcase whatever I want here. I can change the images and the order. I can change, talk about my features separately and have that differently here, right? All of this in just 25 minutes, just because, I took the right strategy. I had a co-pilot to brainstorm with me. I diverged, figure out multiple things, and then picked up one that was working best. Okay. Now, great. So now I'm done. I got the access keys to the Unsplash. Could you give me the prompt that I can give to Lovable, where on the admin, I can use the Unsplash API to fetch images for a particular location or for a particular property? Right. So this is what I'm giving just to showcase the last piece of how to prototype end to end, which is to integrate an API as well. Very, very simple, right? It's very, very simple. So this prompt is done. Uh, so as you can see, you just really don't need to worry about anything. Claude has figured out the API call format and everything that is done, right? So it's just a very simple way for me to copy paste this here. And of course, I have the keys ready. Lovable will automatically ask me for these keys when it tries to hit the API. So it's going to be something from there. And that's what it's going to do right now, right? Um, so yeah, it's going to build the Unsplash model. It's then going to create image account and it's going to add a settings tab with the API key. So it's building all of that on its own, right? Now, what will happen is there will be a separate place for me to put this where all I have to do is just paste this key. That's absolutely it, right? And that's how simple API integrations are. But now with just this, if you compare and if you're a PM at Airbnb, showing this to your user, right, versus showing this to a user, right, actually is very, very close, right? If I just make it full screen and just compare the two, of course, maybe the size of the images can be better, the quality of the images can be better, but I can fix all of that now, right? I can just probably, go here, say that I actually want this image, right? And then just go to my admin and upload that image so that I actually have real images now. I don't even have the AI generated ones that you can see here. So I can actually create an exact clone of your product just with a few prompts, doing it one by one, right? And of course, to showcase the API key bit, you can actually do the API key part as well. Now, if you are, of course, obsessing over the details, you would say that, okay, this can become center aligned and this can move here and all of that. That's, of course, already there. And definitely that's possible. And that is something that you should do. But from the perspective of being, a prototyper, you are now in a place where, you've gone from, the generic AI slop that gets generated where nothing works to something that actually has a full blown feature with you and with a lot of configurability as well, right? You can change the images, change the text, change the name, and so on and so forth, right? So that is what you could do here. Now, of course, it's just figuring out and wiring all of that as well. So I'm just going to do that as well once this is deployed. And then I'm going to just copy paste the API key that we found on Unsplash and just wire it here, right? So just basic, easy way for me to use that. For those of you who don't know Unsplash, Unsplash is just a very simple platform that gets you images. So they give you high quality images. And of course, mostly they sell to enterprises to get that to basically sell their business. So just waiting for this to be done. Once this is done on the admin, we would see that we can actually stay on the admin page and see whatever changes are coming there. So as you can see, there's a settings that is already here now, right? So what is the settings? Editorial magazine, right? Where should I place it? Above property, below property. So now you see, I can experiment, right? Because I'm prototyping, I can put it at the top, I can put it at the bottom, all of that, right? Now, what am I doing? I'm there. Okay, just let it complete deploy, and then I will put the Unsplash key here as well. And then whenever you're doing this, there is going to be a way for you to actually pick up these images as well, right? And that's what we're going to do. It's just, yeah, this is done. So now I'm just going to put the access key here and save and test. Yeah, now you can browse images. So this is already done. You're actually successfully connected to Unsplash, and you can use this for different use cases in your product, right? So when I click here, see, Unsplash images are coming in, right? I don't. So what happened? What is it doing? Anywhere. I mean, go to editorial magazine, just click here. So what it is doing? It's typed Pondicherry India travel as the prompt, and it is showing me Pondicherry India images from Unsplash, right? And it was what, uh, 5 minutes, because when someone wrote that we need to do this, and all you had to do was just brainstorm. So I'll just click on this, use this image, done. Now my Pondicherry image on the home screen, I think I have to go inside this. I don't know where it is coming, but my Pondicherry image on the home screen will actually be now. Okay, this is not that. Let me just go back and see where we were. Yeah, this is where we were. I will just go to admin and check what's going on. Okay, so inside editorial, in Pondicherry, in the editor's pick, we had this as the hero image and it's visible. So that's what we will do now. We'll just go back to the home screen and then we'll open the Pondicherry editorial. Of course, if it doesn't come, we have to just work with, Lovable to fix it. Very quick fix, to be honest. But I'll just go here. So this is basically your editorials and your discovery of that. So I'm just going to click on this and okay, the hero image is still not coming. So I'm just going to tell that to Lovable. I selected on the admin a hero image for Pondicherry, but when I open the article for Pondicherry, it still shows me the older hero image. I selected the new image from Unsplash. Right? So just a very quick bug fix because I have to, of course, test it out as well in terms of it working. But now it's basically, of course, the most of the part is working. It's already fetching the images from Unsplash's API and already giving me that. So now it's making it so much more easy, right? So Villa and Canacona 2, just click on it, Villa and Canacona 2, South Goa, and it's already showing me images that I have on Unsplash, right? You can, look at portrait images, you can look at square images, and so on and so forth. And now it's just checking whether it's working and not. Now, finally, while it gets done, the handoff. So the handoff can happen in multiple ways. One is you can sync the projects to your GitHub account. So what happens here is you can sync this project to your company's GitHub account, where usually companies manage their code bases. So that is what you could do, where you could sit with your engineers and then say that, okay, give me the access to GitHub or log into your GitHub, and all the code is just going to come in. The second is, of course, you could publish it. So I could just continue it. It's just going to give me an option to make it public. It's just going to give me an icon and a title, so I can put Airbnb's logo here, the image and everything, and customize it, and that's done. So this is the multiple ways in which I can hand off. The code is also available. So if you just go and click here, you will actually have the code as well. And you can entirely download the code file and just send that to your engineering team as well. Right? So that is also possible for the handoff, just in the ways that we discussed earlier. Right? Now, okay, so Lovable is saying that this is ready to pick up. So we'll just quickly test it out. And then once we are ready for that, we know that it works, right? So now the header image is actually coming from the Unsplash API that we integrated, which means that it's absolutely, I mean, almost end to end now. Our feature is fully configurable and it's deployed as well. So I open this app from on this website, and there you go, right? The entire Airbnb clone is with us. Of course, since we are doing in a class, it's not 100% perfect, but it's 80-85% already there, right? If you were consciously working on this as part of your day job, you would probably spend another hour and a half on this, and this would be absolutely identical, absolutely perfect. But you can actually do it already now, right? You can change all these images, the text here, the price. You can change the images coming here. You can change all of that and everything from there, right? So it's already working out fairly well. And now, of course, I have to solve a few bugs here and there, but otherwise everything is pretty sorted, right? You can, of course, protect your admin, right? You can say that, hey, can you give me a way to lock the admin, maybe a simple username and password, so that it should be accessible only to my ID. So I don't want this slash admin to be open to everyone so that it can do. So I just give everyone, I'll just tell Lovable that, hey, can you just create a very simple, login page, which ensures that only I and my email ID and password are able to access the admin and no one else, right? So you're actually now ready, right? End to end ready. It's asking me, do you want like a simple password or full authentication? Simple password is fine. I don't want like a full Google authentication and all that for this. So it's just going to create a basic page, and that is going to be available for me. So when I log in, I will be asked to enter the password. And once I enter the password, I will be in. Right. So that is basically how you prototype. That is, we started with a baseline where we used a screenshot and tried to replicate that. We found and then we diverged, which is we tried multiple tools. We settled on one particular tool that we wanted to use for this. And then we created a backend so that we have a way to play around with the prototype, and we are not just this. So as you can see, it's now ready, right? It's now the admin access is ready. So now if someone tries to go inside admin, you will not be able to access it unless you enter this email and password, right? Unlike earlier, where everyone could just go and change. So you can just hard code your email and password here for simplicity, so that only you know how to enter, and that's pretty much it. If you want, you can build like a sophisticated login system as well if you want more security and more compliance. But for a prototype, it's still okay, right? And then, of course, once we were able to do all of this, there were multiple ways in which you could do that. You could publish it from this link. You could download the code and do that, all of that as well. Right. There's a question on can we check the backend tables? Yes. So all the data on Lovable is actually stored on something called as Lovable Cloud, which is a built-in backend. It's actually, we're still implementing the admin and everything, so that's why it's still not enabled here, but it will come here. But yes, you can see all the backend tables and all the data that we've created as well. So that all is available as well on Lovable, while of course it fills the logout button and all of that here. Right. So that is how it does. So it's given me a simple password and a simple email. So I'll just type my email, and it's created a password called Ayuda2024. Yeah. That's it. So I am now logged in and only I can use it. And now you can use it because you know the password as well, but I'll depublish the website soon. So that's not a problem. But essentially now you're done, right? You have an entire thing to you. You can enable the cloud as well, which is where you can now store all of this on the data. You don't need to do it in a prototype. Just create an admin page, fill in the details on the admin page and let the other page be powered by it. Absolutely fine. And this is how you create a full functional prototype and how you become much better at the whole AI prototyping skill set. Right. So that is all I had for this AI prototyping boot camp. I'll take some more questions if there are some common questions that are in chat, and of course the recommendation is for you to try the same thing. You have the recommendation is for you to try out a feature now, which is pick up anything. Flipkart, add some voice search on Flipkart. Airbnb, like we did, add something there, right? All of that. Just pick a feature and try, and I'm sure you're going to love it. Lovable gives you 5 free credits a day, so use those five. We barely use, I think, 10 prompts today, so we might have used like 20 credits. So it's 4 or 5 days of you sitting for like half an hour a day. That's it. So just do that, become better at creating this, clones and all of that, and that's how you become really good at prototyping. Right. Anyway, thank you so much for joining, folks. I hope this was good, and yeah, take care of yourself, and I'll see you the next time. Bye bye.